From the peaks of the north to the lowlands of the south, we celebrate a variety of various cultures that brighten our earth. However, such a variety deems inevitable boundaries as well. From words to meanings, many things come in variation. Every culture has their own system of signs and semiotics, which display a plethora of diverse meanings. The art of expression is found to be unique in every continent on the globe. Theories about semiotics were first articulated by Ferdinand de Saussure, a French linguist and semiotician.
Meaning making, in my eyes, is vital in understanding the certain uniqueness in many cultures that can help us understand what someone means without being restricted to the language barrier. The arbitrary nature of signing is not merely the plain status of the certain symbol, rather, can be defined by its correlation to other symbolisms and social relevance. The arbitrary nature of body language in different cultures, where one oftenly utilizes their bodily movements to gesture out meaning. The arbitrary nature of interjections or onomatopoeia in different cultures, where one uses oral but a non-verbal expression of feelings, and the arbitrary nature of love languages between intimate members of society, where the message is evoked by the intimacy displayed by such individuals, are the three main arbitrary natures of semiotics. This plays an important role in our world of different cultures.
The country Japan is known for a lot of its semiotics, like the Japanese bow, that is a gesture to signify respect for the person one is bowing towards. There was a time when Japan was closed off to the world for about 200 years in the 17th century up until 1854, with having no one else but only fellow Japanese men to bow down to. This was called the Sakoku, an isolationist regime era. This was to fend off foreign traders and missionaries in fear of colonialism's power.
This just in, Commodore Matthew Perry has forced Japan to open their shores to foreign trade and diplomacy in 1854 by signing the Treaty of Peace and Amity at the Convention of Kanagawa. Along with this fall is the isolationism in the country. This isolationist regime lasted for around 200 years, and now it is being broken to welcome foreign trade into the nation. Due to this treaty, the trade and commerce industry of Japan will now be able to bloom. Many of their in-demand products may be traded across the globe. The strongest product that will boom is the trade industry of Japan, being silk. Long live the land of the rising sun!
Silk is a natural protein fiber, some forms of which can be woven into textiles. Silk is made by the product of silkworms. Silkworms are obviously insects that are capable of producing silk in their daily lives. Silkworm eggs were a world-class demand when the European silkworm stocks were ravaged by disease, and Chinese silk exports were cramped by political instability in China. This issue was notably reported through the world-class literary novel called Silk by Alessandra Barrico, a novel that defined this silk phenomenon. This is a story of religious blasphemy, but defining the masculine ideality, the significance of distance, man facing temptation, and priority versus desire, love in a strange place.
Silk is a story about a man's battle in life to ignite the status of his own town whilst fighting his problems with infidelity. This was Hervé Joncourt, son of the town La Villedieu's mayor, and a man that fell in love after coming back from war. As a youth, he enjoyed his holidays before allegedly returning to the front line with his girlfriend turned fiancée, Helena. Days before he was to return, Hervé was approached by the town merchant Baldebo about recruiting Joncourt to transport silkworm eggs from North Africa to La Villedieu. This promised Hervé Joncourt a future away from going to war, but still a fountain of fortune. However, things took a turn when silkworm disease ravaged the various continents.
I was tasked by Baldebut to head to Egypt to collect silkworm eggs in order to aid their silkworm farms in La Villedieu. When I returned with them, however, it seemed that the silkworm disease reached Egypt before I could get my hands on those eggs. Due to this, Baldebut tasked me to smuggle silkworm eggs from Japan. the purest kind of silkworm eggs there is on Earth because of Japan's closed doors to the world. Japanese silk was known to be the purest form of Japanese silkworm's product, as these silkworms were never bred with silkworms outside the isolationist nation. I had to venture through Europe, reaching the borders of Russia, crossing the eastern China Sea in a disguise to reach the Japanese village where I could trade gold for silkworm eggs. Entering the village on my first trip, I felt like a stranger. I felt like an alien in a snowy field of oriental eyes. This village is where I met the samurai of the village, a military nobility that headed the small village due to the trust of the locals onto him. Harake, in the turmoil and my fidelity to Heli, the woman of the samurai.
On their first encounter, Joncour was led by a teenage boy into the samurai's Japanese home of rice paper panels, a home made of shoji paper that was a tough, translucent paper made of wood fiber. There, he laid eyes on his mysterious concubine that took a sip of his teacup, with her eyes gazing back at him. She was a youthful woman in a Japanese kimono, the national costume for Japanese women. There, she then laid on the lap of the samurai, though still gazing at the French merchant. This cup symbolized the woman's new piquing interest in Hervé Joncour, according to Japanese tradition. Glances were exchanged by the two, describing interest in each other, despite both being married to other people. These glances were significant in showcasing such a turmoil in the fidelity of Hervé Joncour and his priority to return to La Villedieu with the eggs. In this whole scenario, the business partnership between Joncour and the samurai was enlightened. Hervé Joncour then acquired the silkworm eggs and returned to La Villedieu. However, he had his mind still on the samurai's women.
Joncour, you must return to Japan. Though business is booming in La Villedieu with the silkworms you brought, we still need more. What will happen if the silkworm disease ravaged Europe once again? What will we do with dead silkworms?
I can't agree more. I'll go in the autumn and I'll return in spring.
Once again, Hervé Joncour headed to the same Japanese village. There, he made another trade that involved smuggling 10 boxes of silkworm eggs out of Japan, so much more than what he smuggled on his first trip. There, he discovered many things about the Japanese couple. The woman was a Chinese woman who married the samurai, a man whose kindness always had a price. There, Hervé Joncour bathed in the arms of the woman. She slipped a note into his hand and then fled. On Joncour's last few hours in the village, the woman paired him with the village's throat singer, a significant attempt that showed how she was going to give up on Hervé Joncour due to her husband allegedly discovering her interest in Joncour. With that, Hervé Joncour's infidelity was confirmed. Returning back to La Villedieu, Hervé Joncour met a widowed Japanese prostitute to translate the letter given by the Chinese woman.
What makes you think that you are rich enough to sleep with me?
That is not what I want. I need you to translate this to me.
Where'd you get this? Return or I shall die, it says.
So, thank you. Please accept this.
Wait. Forget about it. Not the money. The woman.
Though the silkworm disease that ravaged Europe was phasing out, Joncour still insisted on going back to Japan. Such an act ignited suspicion in various people involved in his life, one of which being Helene.
It would be madness to go back there.
I'm going to Japan, Baldabu. Even if it means I have to pay for the trip myself.
Isn't there some way you can stop him?
I'm afraid not. There is something else. There seems to be some trouble over there.
Hervé's trip to Japan was rather unsuccessful this time. Uprisings broke out in Japan, making the village flee the ransacked land. With this was the trust the samurai had in Hervé. Hervé followed the same teenage boy to find the village folk who were fleeing the area. The next day, the boy was hung by the samurai as a threat against Hervé for following the village. Being unable to trade with the samurai this time, he decided to find silkworm eggs along the road back to La Villado, despite the quality being very diminished. On the way home, the worms died, and he brought nothing back to La Villado.
Hervé, I understand that this unsuccessful trip, was very disappointing. But we need to focus on the town's future. What are we going to eat in the winter? You need to talk to someone. What happened in Japan?
It is something I would rather not talk about. What am I supposed to tell other people? That I fell for a samurai's woman in the quest of looking for silkworm eggs? And was in turn the life of an innocent village boy?
To battle a possible winter famine, the land where Hervé and Elena resided was turned into a local garden, where food crops could be grown for the town's winter food stock. Later on, the Treaty of Peace and Amity was signed between the French consulate and Japan. The need to smuggle product in and out of the isolationist region was no longer needed. During this time, Hervé Joncourt received a letter, allegedly from the samurai's women. It was translated once again by Madame Blanche.
Do you really want me to translate this for you?
Yes, is there his note too?
Okay. This time, I do not want any money.
Then what is it that you want?
All I want in return is a promise for you to never return.
I promise.
I'm going to read it now. My master and beloved, do not be afraid. Do not move. Keep salient. Nobody will see us. Stay like this. I want to look at you. I've looked at you so much, but you were not for me. Now you are for me. Don't come close. Please stay as you are, as we have the night to ourselves, and I want to be looked at by you. I've never seen you this way. Your hands are so beautiful. I have dreamt of this moment ever so often. Now I wanted to see them. I like to see them on your skin like this. Please, go on doing it. Don't open your eyes. I am beside you. Do you feel me? I am here. I can brush you. This silk. And do you feel it? It's the silk of my dress. Don't open your eyes and you'll have my skin. You'll have my lips. When I touch you for the first time, it will be with my lips. You'll not know where. At a certain point, you will feel the warmth of my lips on you. You can't know where if you do not open your eyes. Don't open them. I shall bite my lips. I shall bite the skin, penetrating between my lips and pressing on my tongue. I shall bite the skin that throbs on your heart, because you do not believe my eyes are open. Because you do not believe me, open your eyes, my master and beloved, and look at me. It is I who will ever be able to erase the moment that is happening. And this body of mine, no longer with any silk, your hands touching it, your eyes looking at it, your fingers in my cleft, your tongue on my lips, or you sliding beneath me, taking me by the hips, lifting me up, letting me slide onto your organs slowly, up your arms, it will not let me go. The thrust inside me, it is sweet violence. I see your eyes probing mine. They want to know how far to go in hurting me, as far as you please, my master and beloved. There is no end. There is no end. It will not end. Don't you see? No one will be able to erase this moment that is happening. You will forever be throwing your head back, crying out forever. I shall shut my escaping or strength for resisting. It had to be this often, and this often it is, believe me, my master and beloved. This moment shall continue to be, forms now, on shall it be. From now on, it shall be the very end. We shall not see each other again, my master. That which was meant for the two of us, we have done it. As you know, believe me, we have done it forever. Preserve your life out of my reach, and do not for a moment hesitate, should it be useful for your happiness, to forget this woman who says now to you, without regret, farewell.
And as years went by, unfortunately, Helena fell into a sickness that drew her closer to her demise. As Hervé Joncourt sat beside his wife's grave, he found similar blue flowers that Madame Blanche, the woman at the prostitute center that was also Japanese, displayed in her room. There, Hervé Joncourt ventured to Paris to find her and discovered that the letter that he received that was written in Japanese was a letter by his late wife, Helena, and it was translated into Japanese by Madame Blanche.
Silk is a story about success and tragedy that highlights a man's battle with temptation. Here, we are able to understand how temptation can disturb you into accomplishing your priorities. Despite the language barrier, it is clear that there is communication through the use of semiotics in the relationship between Hervé Joncourt and Harake's woman. This included the meaning behind the woman sipping on Hervé's cup to signify her new interest in him, the glances of lust between the two individuals, the scenes of Hervé Joncourt feeling the touch of the silent woman, and even the scene of despair when she cuts ties by pairing Joncourt with the village's throat singer for the night.
If Helena was the woman of the garden, then the samurai's woman was the woman of the snowy forest. A garden represents a healthy conscience that is aware of their ethics and morals. How the plants are arranged to make a beautiful landscape is how we arrange our feelings to understand our doings. However, the snowy forest represents how one can easily fall into turmoil and act out on impulse because of the unpredictable and messy nature of the forest landscape. In addition to that is the winter, where the icy forest showcased how the warmth of Hervé Joncourt's fidelity to Helena is frozen because of the presence of the samurai's woman. Despite being a novel that enlightened romance, it was an erotic novel about neglecting ethical romance for temporary pleasure. Such a story highlights the human interest in indulging into new, exotic things, just like how Joncourt grew interest in a woman of a different place that he had found never before. Curiosity is a strong urge in every human that can either lead them to success or downfall. In the story, we can see Hervé Joncourt achieve both.
And just as I've said, in the eyes of Alessandro Barrico, this is a novel that defined the silk phenomenon. This is a story of religious blasphemy, but defining the masculine ideality, the significance of distance, man facing temptation, and priority versus desire. Silk by Alessandro Barrico, where there is indeed love in a strange place.